everyone, Tim Jennette the Metal Meeple here, and in this video we're taking a look at Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, designed by Toby Ho. This version is published by Gray Fox Games, came out in 2015. The original version came out 2014 and it was called CS Files. It's a 4 to 12 player game, takes about 20 minutes or so, maybe a little longer if you have more people, and essentially it's a hidden role game where somebody's the murderer, the rest of the players are investigators, and one person is the forensic scientist who cannot speak, yet he's trying to use these tokens to put on these different cards to try to get people to get on the same page and pick the cards that the murderer selects as his murder weapons and means of the murder. So let me show you how it plays, we'll take a look at everything, and we'll come back and tell you what I think. Here we go. Here we have a setup for a 4-player game of Deception. Obviously it plays more players, but for camera space we're just going to play 4. Basically you're going to shuffle up these cards, they're role cards. You put one scientist or forensic scientist in there, one murderer, and for every other player you're going to put an investigator. You shuffle these up and hand them out. So the game, let's just say we get the forensic scientist. The forensic scientist is going to reveal himself and be the game master essentially. And then everybody else keeps their roles hidden. The forensic scientist is going to receive 6 of these bullet tokens to place on these cards right here. You always start with this cause of death, which we'll show you in a minute, but here's all the rest of them. All the other players are going to receive 4 means of the murder cards, which are these blue ones, and then 4 of these clue cards, which are the red ones. On top of that, all the other players but the forensic scientist is going to receive 1 of these badges. So we'll just put 1 out in front of each player, and they're going to use those. Basically it shows you that you get 1 guess. We'll come back to that. After that, the forensic scientist is going to tell everybody to put their head down. He's going to say murderer wake up. Let's just say it's this middle player. And he's going to ask him to point to the cards that he committed the crime with silently. So that player is going to say, let's say he points to betting chips. He has to pick 1 red card and 1 blue card. So betting chips and dumbbell. After that, the forensic scientist will tell everybody to wake up, and then he's going to take this cause of death card, put it out in the middle. It's always the same. You've got suffocation, severe injury, etc. Place it in the middle of the table so that all the players can see. He's going to get these 4 location of the crime cards. He's going to pick one that he thinks best matches those 2 cards to get everybody to pick that, obviously. So let's just say we go with, I don't know, this one because it has dormitory. And I'll explain my reasoning, I guess, later. And then you're going to draw the top 4 cards of this massive deck of cards here, and you're going to place them out on the table. So we got Day of Crime. We have General Impression. What type of, I guess, impression of the murderer. The murderer's personality. And then we have Motive of the crime. So we're going to place these out here. And now you're pretty much ready to begin. Basically, the forensic scientist cannot speak, cannot say anything. All he can do is place these wooden tokens on 1 per card, and then once that happens, you move on to the second part of that round. So the beginning of the round, on the first round anyway, the forensic scientist, this is the key part of the forensic scientist because he needs to get all the other players, well, not the murderer, but he needs to get all the other players to get what he's trying to point at. So let's say cause of death, right? I'm going to say severe injury. Right, so we're going to place severe injury on here. Now I can take as long as I want to place that. I can place them in any order. Obviously, the ones I place first are probably the most important. Past that, it might be like I'm just kind of picking it because I have to put 1 token on each card. So everybody starts talking immediately once the first bullet's placed, except for the forensic scientist who can't use any kind of gestures or eye movements or anything like that, can't laugh, etc. So after that, everybody's talking, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm going to say, where was this motive? You know what? Motive was money. And the reason I'm thinking that is because maybe the betting chips. But you also have to pay attention to what else is out there because there could be something they might relate money to. And then you're like, oh, why did I pick that? Like if I pick this one and pick dormitory, then somebody might say, well, here's a scooter. Maybe they're using that to get around on the campus or whatever. So anyway, but I might pick that because it best matches, where those 2 things could. I mean, yeah, you could gamble in there. Most dormitories, maybe somebody has some weights laying around. Obviously, you probably wouldn't in these other ones. And then, you just keep going. Murderer's personality, let's say he was furious, probably because he lost the gambling bets. What day of the week? maybe a weekend, I guess, because why would they? I mean, they should be in school on the weekdays. And then finally, general impression. Oh man, that was pretty horrible murder that's going on here. So after that, each player is going to have 30 seconds after you place these. Then you stop everyone and say, okay, starting with you, you got 30 seconds to tell us what you think happened. And then you go on to the next player and the next player, and you're done. That's one round. The next round, at the beginning of the next round, the forensic scientist is going to flip over a new card. So we got state of the scene, and then you replace one of these. Let's just say, oh, day of the crime, I didn't like that so much. And we'll put this out here. You have to replace one. And I don't know, you pick stuff. You do it again, everybody talks for a little bit, then you have 30 seconds each, and then you play a third and final round. Now, during any of these rounds, each player has one of these little tokens here, the badges, and they can basically say, I'm going to solve the crime. This is the only time during the 30-second presentations that everybody can freely talk, but at the end of each round when you're doing your 30 seconds, this is the only time you can interrupt them. No one else can speak. You can be like, I'm going to solve the crime. I think it was him, and he did it with, let's say, the book, and the dumbbell. And then all this forensic scientist can do is either say yes or no. He has to get both cards right for the forensic scientist to say yes, in which case all the good players, the investigators, and the forensic scientist wins. Otherwise, he says no because you got one wrong, but he can't tell you that one of them was right. Keeps going. That player can still speak freely. He still gets his 30-second presentation each round, and then you keep going. The murderer can obviously throw people off by saying, oh, I thought it was Bill over here with the dirt and a pill, and then whatever. So if no one gets it right, the game immediately ends and the murderer wins. Otherwise, at the end of the third round, if you still have a token left, you're out of luck. You need to spend that throughout the game. After the end of the third round, once you do your presentation, everybody just immediately stops, and then the murderer reveals himself. That's pretty much the game. There are tons of cards here for the clue and means cards. I mean, there are hundreds. On top of that, you have some of these tiles here that are special tiles, such as this one. Whenever this gets revealed, you don't do them on the first round, but on the second and third round, when you reveal it, you can read it off. You know, the player correctly solved the crime last game, immediately has another chance to do so. And I think I have them off to the side, I believe. Anyway, so this one, all players except the forensic scientist close their eyes, the witness, blah, 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 which we're going to talk about. Anyway, these are just, you can add those in if you would like. The other variants, if you're playing 6 or more players, is you can add the accomplice. The accomplice wakes up with the murderer, and he knows who the murderer is and what he committed the crime with. But you can also, that kind of makes it harder for the investigators, I assume. And then if you want, you can also add in the witness if you're playing with the accomplice. The witness, once the murderer and the murderer and the accomplice go back to sleep, the witness then wakes up, and the forensic scientist says, he points to the two people that are the murderer and the accomplice, and so that player obviously knows who it is, but he doesn't know what he committed it with, and so he can help, lead the investigation on a little bit more. The problem is, if you're playing with the witness, then after the crime has been solved, the murderer and the accomplice get a short period of time to talk amongst each other, and they get to kill somebody, and if they kill the witness silently, or kill the witness, then he doesn't go to trial, and they still win the game. So that's pretty much the game. Let's take a look at what I think. So I know what you're thinking, another role game, another hidden role game, but despite what you may think, this game is amazing. It is simply just awesome. The fact that it's a short game, you're talking 20, 25 minutes, even on the first playthrough sometimes. I mean, with people that I haven't played with before, they get it quick. I mean, it is just that quick. It is really, really fun. I think people are going to compare this to Mysterium, and Mysterium's fine. I don't think they replace each other or one another. I think the cool thing about this one is the fact that the murder weapons, if you've played Mysterium, I kind of felt like Mysterium, you select things and then you select things at the end. It's not like nothing's predefined. It's determined as you play, kind of. This one, it's like somebody is saying, I committed the murder with these 2 cards, and you need to figure it out. And it's just really, really fun. I think the forensic scientist might be my favorite, but least favorite role, and I'll explain why. The forensic scientist is probably the only role that you almost don't get to do a lot. but it is sort of satisfying, right? So you start the game and you have maybe 3 to 5 minutes or so when you're placing those tokens, and it really matters. And that's like almost all you do the game, you know, because you get 2 more rounds, and on those next rounds you flip out a new token or a new card or whatever to put a token on, and it's literally which one fits best. Tap. Okay, that was my turn. Now I can sit here in silence and watch everybody else make fun of me because I probably didn't pick the right things. It's not that big of a deal though, because the game's only 15-20 minutes, you know, and I feel like it's just a nitpicky thing. If the game was any longer, I would actually probably harp on that subject a little bit more. In addition to that, the event tiles kind of deteriorated even more, because some of the event tiles, like one of them says, all players, including the murderer, pick 1 or 2 cards or whatever, and you flip them over or remove them. Right? You can't remove the murder stuff, obviously, but it narrows down the cards. Well, that was your turn. You literally allowed everyone else to do stuff except for you. And so now the players talk amongst each other again with information that you didn't help out with. So it's kind of whatever. I mean, it's so minor, honestly, because the game's so quick and you switch the roles so much. As long as you're not trying to be the forensic scientist all the time, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the game's great with lots of players. Obviously, in the roles, when it says 6+, you can add those additional roles. I definitely recommend it. Kind of gives it that Resistance vibe where you're trying to, you know, kill Merlin or whatever, depending on which version of Resistance you played. But otherwise, I mean, the game is just amazing. I highly recommend this. It's just very, very good. I hope I see this, and I can't wait till convention season comes back around and we start playing these a lot. You know, at conventions, it's really fun to play with a lot of people. Typically in my game group, we don't have a lot of people, so it doesn't happen that often. But I'm looking forward to playing it with 12, which I have not played it with yet, but I don't think it would change my mind, other than the fact that maybe the game might be a little hard because there's so many cards. One of the variants you can do, which I didn't mention, is you can limit people's clue and the red and blue cards. You can either give 3 to each player of each type or 5 to each player of each type. Obviously, 3 of each might be better with a higher player count. 5 of each might be better with a lower player count. So anyway, I highly recommend you take a look at this, especially if you like hidden role games. So if you have any questions, please comment below. Email me at timjennette@gmail.com or follow me on any of the social media below. And until next time, keep on rocking and rolling dice.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at coolstuffinc.com.